This is Mike Romali here with the Hurricane Outlook and discussion for October 14th, 2019, recorded around 7:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We don't have a whole lot to talk about today, but let's go ahead and jump right into it, starting with Tropical Depression 15, which has just been recently started advisories on. This is to the south and east of the Cabo Verde Islands, which are right about in here. And over the coming days, this is expected to become a tropical storm, which is the furthest east for this time, I do believe, on record. So yet another Cabo Verde system that has come up here over the last not too long, really, over the last several weeks. And this is expected to track into the Cabo Verde Islands and then bring some heavy rain and wind to that region before then strengthening briefly into a tropical storm and then weakening out across the open Atlantic into a tropical depression, bringing no significant threats elsewhere. We're also watching Invest 95L out here in the main development region as well. Pretty low latitudes at this point in time, riding probably about near 10 degrees latitude. And then we're also watching this wave out here, which has the potential to move into the Bay of Campeche over the next several days and over the coming week, and which may try to develop somewhere out in there. Taking a look here at the 5-day graphical from the National Hurricane Center, this is where this system is expected to go. It has not been classified as a tropical invest at this point in time, so you do not have any computer guidance really running on this. But some of the models do suggest that this may try to sneak in here and develop somewhere out in here a little bit in the Bay of Campeche region. So something to monitor there. If you live in certainly Mexico, right there along the coast, there's the potential for a tropical system to be trying to get its act together there over the next week or so, really, once this crosses into the Bay of Campeche. This is Invest 95L right here, which has looked somewhat decent throughout the day. We'll have to see how it continues to organize, if at all, over the next coming days. But this is expected to move near Barbados in the southern Lesser Antilles. However, this is expected to encounter very unfavorable upper-level winds out in this region in the Caribbean. So this should not develop too much further. But again, we know how storms this year have tended with the shear. It's a very kind of wish-washy situation. So as always, for our friends here in Barbados, in the Lesser Antilles, it is still hurricane season. It's only October 14th. And we have a little bit more than a month to go still left in the hurricane season. So still something to kind of keep in mind here for Barbados and the Lesser Antilles. And again, here's Tropical Depression 15. Speaking of Tropical Depression 15, again, this is expected to become a tropical storm during the next couple of days while it moves off towards the north and west, affecting the Cabo Verde Islands. And then really starting to weaken after that point in time, to which when it finally will make a run at becoming post-tropical. So not expecting this to develop much into a hurricane or a powerful system, but certainly some impacts to the Lesser Antilles could potentially be felt there over the next coming days. So certainly something to kind of keep in mind there. We are also watching for other developments here, but this is Tropical Depression 15. Still very loosely organized at this point in time. Really not seeing much in the way of actual substantial development at this point, but you can certainly see that it's very loosely organized. Really not a whole lot going on there, but you mainly notice a lot of the deeper convections off to the north. Really not a lot centered right around this true center, but certainly something to kind of keep in mind here. That this, may try to organize, but certainly that is what's going on. Go away. That's kind of what's going on, and this is the Cabo Verde Islands. It's kind of out here, so certainly something to kind of keep in mind for those areas, as this is expected to become a tropical storm within the next few days and impact the Cabo Verde Islands. This is Invest 95L here. This is also from the Weather Nerds site, a very great website. But you can see, loosely organized, there is really no substantial deep convection around any point of axis of rotation or center or what have you. However, we will have to watch. This has kind of blossomed up over the last day or so and has become a little bit more concentrated today, with some of that deeper convection trying to focus around a concentrated area of vorticity. But you notice that we've really not had a whole lot, and there's some upper level winds that are sort of preventing this from developing. You notice that there is here in the earlier frames, we can kind of run that all the way back here. You do notice that a lot of these clouds were kind of getting blown off towards the north and east, so that does indicate to me that there is a decent amount of shear that is still there. You can still see what it kind of looks like playing in a fast loop there. Certainly those cloud tops were getting a little bit blown off to the north and east, so not a lot of shear that's screaming in, but enough that will probably hinder significant development of the system throughout its lifetime. So not really too concerned about this, but for our folks in the Lesser Antilles and Barbados, certainly something to kind of keep an eye on. Taking a look here at the ECMWF model, this is the 12Z run for today from TropicalTidbits.com. You notice this is our system right here, 95L, and this is kind of the very loosely organized Tropical Depression 15. Notice our little disturbance out here near Central America. And notice here over the coming days, out to 24 hours, this is what will become a tropical storm. And this is Invest 95L barely holding on here. And you also notice something trying to get going here as some sort of Central American gyre in the Central Pacific. But notice once we kind of push that to 72 hours, notice that our system here, 95L, barely organized at all. There's still some defined vorticity, but notice what will be a tropical storm at the time certainly has a lot more vorticity to it. And notice then by 120 hours, actually backed it up to 96. One interesting thing to note here, this is the European out to 96 hours here, the 12Z run. And this is our little Central American system right now that has a yellow X right here. And notice how that tracks generally up here and then sort of up like that off towards the north and east. Something to kind of keep an eye on. It does show vorticity that develops, and then out by 5 days it has something a little bit more concentrated. Again, where this will end up and if it will develop at all, that's kind of a major question. But notice this is sort of the remnants right here of 95L and the remnants of Tropical Depression 15 right there. So certainly not a whole lot to really go off on for 95L, and really for any of these systems, really not posing any significant threat at this point in time. Taking a look at the 95L forecast models, this is also from TropicalTidbits.com, the 18Z guidance. Notice that most of them, the TVCN, the TCI, certainly on the southern end, the CEMI models, that's kind of the Canadian ensembles, certainly take this a little, or the representative model really takes that off towards the operational guidance, takes that a little bit off more towards the north and east. That would be sort of a more favorable track, but still pretty unfavorable in that environment. So continue to monitor on that. Certainly the intensity guidance, only really the SHIPS model does indicate that it becomes a tropical storm, which is more of a statistical, but mainly going with the blend of the actual dynamical guidance, really not suggesting much. As well as the GEPS tracks here, again suggesting a more northeasterly track. Nothing really concentrated in this region, so really not a lot to worry about at this point in time. But again, continuing to watch for our friends here in Barbados and the Lesser Antilles, so really not a lot on there. Again, we're watching 3 systems at this point with an undesignated system right here, which will possibly become Invest 96L over the coming days. Also watching 95L and Tropical Depression 15 for potential impacts to the Cabo Verde Islands. And certainly watching 95L for potential impacts to the Lesser Antilles and Barbados over the coming days, but shouldn't be of much concern. And watching this system out here, this other tropical disturbance for impacts to Central America, and then seeing what it can do out here in the Bay of Campeche. Hope you all have a great rest of your evening, and I will do updates as needed.